Welcome back everyone to Void Dwarf Studios, where we continue our look into the Tau Empire. Today, it's all about tanks. Or skimmers. Skimmers and flying tanks to be precise, as the Tau don't really believe in, well, vehicles that roll on the ground. The only exception to this is their mechs which walk on two legs, and, well, everything else has got fantastic skimmer technology, so yeah. The Tau don't believe in keeping their feet on the ground in that sense. First up, we will be looking at their lightest to heaviest vehicle, and I will go a little bit into their lore and their rough role in the tabletop. And I'm going to be sticking to miniatures that are easy to get a hold of from Games Workshop, as the more unusual creations that the Tau have either don't have models or are Forge World. So, starting this off, we have the Tau Piranha. If you wanted a lightweight craft capable of zooming in and out and fulfilling a similar role to a Space Marine land speeder, then the Piranha TX4 skimmer is your craft of choice. Originally witnessed as a civilian craft used for transporting dignitaries and light cargo, this thing very quickly found a role in the Tau military as a lightweight skimmer. Its role was to use its speed and maneuverability to swiftly get into advantageous locations, use the drones attached to it to light up targets with marker lights, and then destroy them before dashing out and, well, doing the same thing over again. This vehicle is fantastic for sudden lightning raids, and for ambushing enemy units where its speed really becomes useful. Typically piloted by a crew of 2, this little thing is often armed with a pair of seeker missiles to give fire support for marker-lit equipped troops and vehicles. It can choose to replace its burst cannon with either a fusion blaster, so you've got options for anti-tank and anti-infantry, and of course, you can give it various upgrades to make it more suited to the various roles you want it to be, to make it tougher, faster, or just be able to inflict more damage. And of course, with 2 detachable gun drones, it's got its own little protective fire support. A very useful little light speeder, which you shouldn't really go without. It's a cute little thing, and whilst it's not going to survive much incoming firepower, its ability to get into advantageous positions should not be underestimated. And now we start moving on to stuff that's a bit more tank-like. Still on the lighter end of the spectrum, we are looking at Devilfish, the TY-7 Armoured Personnel Transport Carrier, able to ferry in fire warriors, pathfinder teams, straight into the heat of the battle, and then with enough armour and guns, get them back out again without, well, getting shot to smithereens. Primarily armed with a burst cannon mounted on a turret under its chin, it can also be armed with various secondary armaments, including gun drones and a smart missile system. The armour on this thing is made of the same material that used for the Crisis mobile suits, meaning that it is tough, lightweight, flexible, and perfect for moving at high speeds. It will sufficiently protect the crew and troops inside from small arms fire. However, as soon as we start talking about Imperial crack missiles, or anything higher than that, this thing's going to disappear relatively quickly. Heck, a las cannons will happily take this thing down in a single shot. However, because it's a skimmer tank, it is ridiculously fast and can jink and move out of the way of incoming fire, making it a ridiculously hard thing to get a hold of. And with a troop transport of up to 12 warriors, these things are kind of essential if you intend to have a very troop-heavy army. Put some Pathfinders in here to light up targets, or put in some Tau Fire Warriors to lay down some firepower in more advantageous positions, and you will find that, the Devilfish will more than make up for the cost, because armed with the burst cannon, with 2 additional gun drones, and the options to have additional light armaments on top, means that this thing is possibly one of the best light transport vehicles around. Its only real contender is probably the Eldar Falcon, because that thing is just absolutely absurd with the amount of firepower that it can dish out. Its much heavier brother, the Hammerhead gunship, sacrifices the troop transport capacity, but you can have a ridiculous long gun strapped to the top of it. Known as a railgun, this thing is capable of firing solid projectiles at ridiculous speeds, making most things just disappear. The second most common weapon, known as an ion cannon, is a fantastic thing when you really want a vehicle to regret living, as the ionized particles create an electromagnetic field which short circuits and does horrendous damage to anything with an electronical system, whilst the railgun, whilst not going to penetrate a Bane blade or anything heavier than that, will more than happily make a Space Marine Predator or a Lehman Russ think twice, especially on the side armour. This solid shell is more than capable of, well, making any Space Marine duck for cover, because, yeah, you don't want to be shot by that thing. That thing is going so fast that it will just make the Marine explode. Both the Hammerhead and the Devilfish have a crew of 2, one sorting out the targeting and one making sure that this thing flies around successfully. And of course, say it with me, people, this thing has gun drones, because gun drones are hilarious. The Hammerhead also sports a twin-linked long-barrel burst cannon, much like the Devilfish, or missile pods, fusion cannons, and a Tau twin-linked plasma cannon. And for secondary armaments, you can give it a smart missile system. This thing, whilst being slightly more heavily armoured than the Devilfish, is still going to struggle once las cannons, crack missiles and battle cannons start laying into it in any kind of significant number. Thank goodness this thing can jink and is very good at dodging most things because of the fact that it's a skimmer. It can just fly backwards and forwards across the battlefield really quickly. The Tau will never use tracked vehicles because they need to be able to manoeuvre as fast as possible. And finally, you have the Sky Ray gunship. This is typically employed by the Tau as a perimeter and anti-air defense vehicle, armed with Seeker missiles, which are mounted on a 360-degree traversable turret and equipped with a network marker light and target lock systems. This thing is going to make any kind of air support really want to get rid of this ASAP. And if you think you're going to sneak up on this thing and destroy it quickly from the ground, well, unfortunately, infantry are going to struggle because of the burst cannon and the pair of gun drones, or with a smart missile system, most light vehicles are going to not have a very pleasant day. This is definitely a vehicle you want to keep well back, whilst the Devilfishes and Hammerheads can kind of duck backwards and forwards. This thing really is best suited at the back of your lines, where it can make the most out of its missiles to destroy any incoming aircraft or anyone who wants to try and deep strike into your deployment zone. Tau aren't particularly fond of using tanks in general. They are much more fond of their crisis team suits, because they are just far more manoeuvrable and can stack much heavier weapons and, well, they're smaller targets, which makes them harder to hit. Tau tanks are limited by the fact that, well, they're heavy and they need big engines to move them around quickly. And Tau like to be able to move as fast as possible, so yeah. This is why Tau tend to be more famous for their crisis suits as opposed to their tanks. But do not underestimate Tau tanks. They are surprisingly tough because of their ability to jink everywhere, and with a blistering array of guns and missiles, and the fact they can take advantage of the whole marker light system, yeah, do not underestimate them in any way, shape or form. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please check out the channel for further content. Like and subscribe, and feel free to check out the Patreon page. Thank you so much to everyone who's been supporting the channel. I really appreciate it, and I hope to be hearing from you all soon. Until then, take care everyone.